The late September sun bathed Pine Hollow, North Carolina, in a golden haze, casting long shadows across Maple Lane's manicured lawns and picket fences. It was September 28, 2025. A Saturday so tranquil it could have been ripped from a Norman Rockwell painting, until a gunshot shattered the suburban stillness like a thunderclap from a cloudless sky. 13-year-old Ava Bennett froze mid-step. Her black Labrador, Duke, collapsing beside her on the sun-dappled sidewalk. Blood erupted from his chest, a crimson tide spreading with horrifying speed across his glossy coat. "Duke!" Ava's scream clawed its way out, primal and piercing, as she dropped to her knees, her small hands plunging into the wound, desperate to stem the flow. Her hazel eyes, wide with disbelief, darted from the blood-soaking her fingers to the two uniformed figures looming above her. Officer Travis Dunn, a wiry man with a buzz cut and a perpetual scowl, stood with his Glock 22 still extended, a thin wisp of smoke curling from the barrel. His partner, Officer Ryan Holt, a stocky ex-linebacker with a buzzed blonde fade, grabbed Ava's shoulder, yanking her back as she flailed against him. He was gonna bite. Dunn snapped, his voice flat, ignoring her anguished cries. "Stay back, kid." Ava twisted free, her NASA t-shirt, stained now with Duke's blood, clinging to her trembling frame. "He wasn't. You killed him," she shrieked, her voice breaking into sobs as Duke's eyes met hers, confusion. Pain, then nothing. His tail thumped once, a final farewell, before he stilled. Across the street, Mrs. Evelyn Carter, an 80-year-old widow with a spine of steel, watched from her porch. Her arthritis-gnarled hands fumbling with her ancient flip phone. She punched in a number she hadn't used in months, one that would snake through military channels halfway across the globe to a classified outpost in Iraq. There, Colonel Daniel Bennett, America's most lethal Delta Force commander, would receive a message that would turn his world to ash: "Your daughter's dog is dead. Cops shot him. She's broken." Neither Dunn nor Holt noticed Mrs. Carter's call, too busy justifying their trigger-happy chaos to a growing knot of neighbors peering from windows and lawns. Ava was no stranger to grief's cruel bite. 3 years earlier, at 10, she'd watched breast cancer devour her mother, Rachel, a vibrant art teacher who'd filled their Atlanta home with laughter and color. Ava had been her shadow, bright, curious, always sketching birds and deer in her spiral notebooks, dreaming of becoming a wildlife biologist. Rachel's death snuffed that light. Ava's infectious giggle faded, her hazel eyes, so like her mom's, dulled to a haunted stare. Daniel, her dad, had moved them to Pine Hollow 6 months ago, chasing Rachel's vision of a sprawling colonial with a wraparound porch and a yard for Duke to roam. It was supposed to be a fresh start. But in this affluent, mostly white suburb, Ava felt the weight of every sidelong glance, every whispered, "Who are they?" She'd learned to navigate it, head down, Duke close, her sketchpad her shield. Daniel Bennett, 40, was a ghost in the military world, a 6 feet 3 inches wall of muscle with a chiseled jaw and eyes that could pierce steel. A Delta Force legend, he'd led ops so black they didn't exist on paper, hostage rescues in Yemen, assassinations in Syria, raids that left no trace but whispers. His medal stayed locked in a safe, his scars, knife slashes, bullet grazes, told his tale. Widowed, he'd raised Ava alone, softening his battlefield edge for her, his voice a low rumble when he read her bedtime stories, his hands gentle when he'd braid her hair before shipping out. Duke had been his lifeline to her after Rachel's funeral, a retired K-9 from Fort Bragg, trained to detect explosives and, later, Ava's panic attacks. With soulful brown eyes and a soldier's discipline, Duke slept by her bed, waking her from nightmares with a nudge. His warmth a bridge over the chasm Rachel left. That afternoon, Ava had clipped Duke's leash for their daily walk, her faded army t-shirt a quiet nod to Daniel's world. He'd been deployed a month, another, quick job. He'd sworn, kissing her forehead before vanishing into the dawn. "Back by 5, Aunt Lisa," she called, her voice echoing through the Colonial's airy kitchen. Lisa Monroe, 37. Daniel's younger sister and a civil rights attorney with a reputation for shredding crooked systems, glanced up from her legal briefs. "Stick to the path, Ava. Spaghetti tonight." Outside. Pine Hollow shimmered with privilege, BMW SUVs in circular driveways, kids' electric scooters worth more than some folks' cars. The Bennett's home, with its neat azaleas and creaky porch swing, was modest here, but Ava had mapped its unspoken rules: Mrs. Carter's warm waves, the Johnsons' tight-lipped nods, the Millers' averted eyes. They'd hit their usual route, past the playground where toddlers squealed under Nanny's watch, around the cul-de-sac where Duke sniffed hydrants, when a Pine Hollow PD cruiser rolled up, slow and deliberate. Ava's gut clenched. Daniel had taught her to clock threats early, eyes up. Assess, move smart. She kept walking, Duke at her left, his leash loose, his gait steady. The car stopped, doors popping open. "Afternoon," Holt said, his tone clipped, eyes scanning her like she was a suspect. "You live here?" "Yes, sir," Ava replied, voice soft but firm, Daniel's training in her spine. "Elm Street. Moved in April." "Your dad around?" Holt pressed, stepping closer. "He's on a work trip. My aunt's home." She skipped the army bit, "Keep it vague," Daniel always said. Dunn circled Duke, his hand hovering near his holster. "Big dog for a kid. You control him?" "He's trained, sir. He's good." Ava's fingers tightened on the leash, not from Duke's behavior, but from the air thickening with menace. "Got reports of trouble?" Holt said, casual but loaded. "Seen anything weird?" "No, sir." Ava edged back, Duke mirroring her, their sync honed by months of quiet trust. "Name?" Dunn barked, his patience thinning. "Ava Bennett. My dad's Colonel Daniel Bennett, Army Special Forces." She hoped the title carried weight. It didn't. "Colonel, huh?" Dunn smirked, exchanging a look with Holt. "Where's he at?" "Overseas, sir." "Convenient," Dunn muttered, closing in. Duke rumbled, a low, protective hum, not a growl. "Control that mutt." Dunn snapped, drawing his Glock. "He's fine." Ava's voice spiked, fear bleeding through. "Please, step back, he'll relax." Dunn didn't. "Back him off, now," he roared, finger twitching. Duke shifted, planting himself between Ava and the cop, calm. "Steady, a wall." "No." Ava's scream split the air as the shot exploded. Duke yelped, a sound she'd never heard, sharp and final, and crumpled. Blood gushed, hot and slick, as she dove for him. Hands pressing the wound, sobbing, "Duke, no, stay with me." His eyes locked on hers, trust fading to stillness, then glazed over. Holt yanked her up, her sneakers slipping in the blood. He was aggressive. Dunn shouted, holstering his gun. "You saw it." Ava tore free, glaring through tears. "He was protecting me. You scared him. You killed him." Mrs. Carter's voice cut through, 911. "Yes, 2 cops shot a girl's dog, no reason, I saw it all." Neighbors emerged, some filming, some shouting, as Ava cradled Duke's head, his warmth draining fast. "My dad's gonna make you pay," she whispered, a vow carved in grief. Dunn laughed, sharp and cruel. "Good luck, kid." But Mrs. Carter's call had already pierced the globe, reaching Daniel Bennett in a desert bunker. His mission forgotten as rage ignited. Pine Hollow's quiet days were numbered. 3 days later, a C-17 Globemaster roared onto the tarmac at Pope Air Force Base, its engine screaming against the bruised October sky. Colonel Daniel Bennett stepped off, his duffel slung over one shoulder, his face a granite mask etched with fury. He hadn't slept, 36 hours of flights, debriefs, and a cold, consuming rage that burned hotter with every mile closer to home. Lisa's call had hit like a mortar round. Duke's dead. Cops shot him in front of Ava. She's a shell. He'd demanded extraction mid-op, a raid on an ISIS cell in Mosul, his CO relenting when Delta Force and daughter's trauma hit the wire. Go, Bennett, the major had growled. Handle it. In Pine Hollow, Ava drifted like a wraith. She hadn't spoken since the police station, her sketchpads gathering dust, her eyes fixed on Duke's empty bed, a blue plaid cushion still dented from his weight. Nightmares jolted her awake, gunshots echoing, blood pooling, Duke's wine fading, leaving her gasping, clinging to Lisa's arms. Dr. Ellen Pierce, a soft-spoken therapist Lisa dragged in. Sat with her for an hour, jotting notes, acute traumatic stress. Immediate intervention required. Ava just stared at her hands, Duke's blood scrubbed away but etched into her memory like a tattoo. She'd mechanically answered station questions, Lisa's number, their address, then shut down, retreating into a silence Lisa couldn't breach. Daniel strode into their colonial at dusk. The porch swing creaking in the humid breeze. The house smelled of Lisa's spaghetti, but Ava sat on the couch, knees drawn up, staring at a blank TV. Ava, he said, voice a low rumble. Soft as he could make it. She turned, saw him in his dusty fatigues, broad shoulders, buzzed black hair graying at the temples, and shattered. She launched into his arms with a raw, animalistic wail that gutted him, her thin frame shaking as he lifted her effortlessly, all 90 pounds of her grief pressed against his chest. I couldn't save him, Dad, she sobbed. Her words tumbling over each other. I tried, your medic tricks, I pressed the wound, but it wouldn't stop. He sank to the couch, cradling her tight. Not your fault, baby girl. Duke did his job, he kept you safe. Her tears soaked his uniform, her fists clutching his collar. They said he attacked, but he didn't. He just stood there, and they shot him. Lisa hovered, her lawyer's poise fraying at the edges. Over Ava's head, Daniel's eyes locked on hers, dark, lethal, a storm brewing. She'd seen that look at 16, when he'd put 3 punks in traction for jumping her in an Atlanta alley. Internal affairs cleared them, she said, voice tight with disgust. Justified force, self-defense. Neighbor videos are inconclusive. Chief's their buddy, systems locking shields. Daniel's jaw ticked, a muscle jumping under his stubble. They failed her. I won't let it stand. He eased Ava down, brushing her hair back as her sobs slowed to hiccups. Sleep. Kiddo. I'm here now. She nodded, eyes heavy, and Lisa guided her upstairs, Duke's absence a ghost trailing them. In the kitchen, Daniel and Lisa faced off over a thick file, the room lit by a single bulb swaying faintly. Travis Dunn and Ryan Holt, Lisa said, sliding it across the table. Dunn's 34, 9 complaints, excessive force, profiling, all buried. Holt's 38, 15 write-ups, same deal. Chief Ramsey's their college frat brother, covers their asses every time. Patterns clear, black families, dogs shot, no consequences. Daniel flipped pages, incident reports, witness statements, all dismissed. They've done this before, he growled. Voice low as a predator's. Targeted Ava, 'cause she's ours. Exactly, Lisa spat, pacing. Saw a black kid in their precious white hood and flexed. I'm filing a civil suit, wrongful death. Emotional distress, but criminal charges? DA's dodging. Systems rigged. Not good enough. He stood, staring out the window into the night, streetlights glinting off Elm Street's perfect lawns. She can't sleep, Jazz. Duke pulled her through Rachel's death, her anchor, and they ripped him away. No badge excuses that. What's the move, Danny? Lisa asked, dread lacing her tone. She knew his gears were turning, delta gears, the kind that ended in blood or justice. The system's broken. I'll fix it my way. His voice was steel, final. Next morning, Daniel hit the ground running. His delta training snapping into focus, surveillance, intel, execution. He tailed Holt and Dunn in a borrowed pickup, mapping their lives with surgical precision. Holt lived in a split level off Pine Road, wife. Teenage son, a cocky strut like he owned the town. Dunn crashed in a sparse apartment on Cedar Lane, hitting O'Malley's pub nightly, drowning in cheap whiskey. Both moved with the swagger of men who'd never faced a reckoning. Daniel rigged cameras around the Colonial, front porch, backyard, garage, expecting blowback. He knew their type, bullies with power, itching to double down when challenged. A week in, his burner buzzed at 3 a.m. Colonel Bennett? Officer Jake Riley, Pine Hollow PD. I was there when they shot Duke. It wasn't right, the report's a lie. Can we talk? The kid's voice shook. Green and raw. Coffee shop, Main and 3rd, 1600, Daniel replied, wary. Trap or truth, he'd sniff it out. Riley showed at 4 p.m., out of uniform, jeans, hoodie, 25 tops, jittery as hell. He slid into the booth, shredding a napkin. I signed the report, he confessed, eyes down. They leaned on me, said I'd lose my badge, my pension. But Duke didn't lunge. Holt egged Dunn on, teach her a lesson. I can't sleep, man. Keep seeing her face. Why me? Daniel pressed, voice ablade. Saw Ava at the station, wrecked, holding it in. Then I heard Duke was her lifeline after her mom died. I joined to help people, not this. Riley's hands shook. I'll testify. Career's toast, but I'll do it. Daniel nodded, filing it away, gold if legit. That night, Lisa called. Voice tight. DA stonewalling, no charges, insufficient evidence. Civil suits a go, but no jail time. They're scared, Daniel said, decision locked. Time to push. At 11 p.m., he shadowed Holt leaving O'Malley's, beer bottle swinging. In the dim lot, Daniel emerged from the dark. Officer Holt. Holt spun, hand twitching to his off-duty piece. You're the kid's dad. Back off, or I'll cuff you for harassment. Try it, Daniel said, low and lethal, closing the gap. My girl's a shell, 'cause of you. Duke was her rock, trained K9, not a threat, and you gunned him down. He slammed Holt against his truck, forearm to his throat. He was protecting her. You're the threat. Holt wheezed, smirking despite the pressure. You're dead, Bennett. You don't scare me. You will be, Daniel shot back, vanishing into the night. The war had begun, and Pine Hollow streets would feel the tremors. Holt and Dunn didn't blink, they doubled down. 2 weeks after Daniel's parking lot warning, Pine Hollow's quiet unraveled. At 10 a.m., Riverview Elementary's principal, Laura Hayes, a stern woman with a gray bob, called Daniel. Voice taut as a tripwire. Colonel, 2 officers showed up demanding to question Ava about threats against law enforcement. She overheard, panicked, hid under a library table. Screaming when they got close. We refused access, sent M packing, but they swore they'd return with paperwork. Daniel tore across town in his F-150, tires chewing asphalt. Arriving to find Ava curled in an office chair, eyes glassy, hands trembling. Dad, she whispered, flinging herself into his arms, her NASA t-shirt wrinkled from clutching her knees. They said they'd take me away, said you're crazy, unfit. He scooped her up, fury boiling beneath his calm. No one's taking you, Ava. They're liars, scared of us. In the truck. He pressed her gently. Who said it, kiddo? Done, she murmured, staring at her sneakers. Outside the principal's door. Thought I couldn't hear. Said, if Bennett doesn't back off. Foster care's next, no judge'll let a psycho vet keep her. Daniel's hands tightened on the wheel, knuckles whitening. They're weaponizing your fear. This ends now. Back home. Lisa stormed in, slamming a DCFS notice on the counter. They're hitting us, unstable home environment. Claims you're unhinged, PTSD-racked, endangering Ava. Anonymous tip. But it's Holt's crew twisting the knife. They're desperate, Daniel growled, scanning the paper, vague accusations, no evidence. Playing dirty. He turned the Colonial into a bunker, motion sensors on the fence. Cameras at every angle, reinforced locks. Officer Riley texted at midnight, they know I talked. Suspended me. Watch your six, something's up tonight. Daniel didn't sleep, pacing the living room. AR-15 within reach, plotting a counterstrike. At dawn, he woke Ava, voice casual despite the storm in his chest. Day trip today, kiddo. Science Museum in Durham, new planetarium exhibit. Screw routine. She blinked, wary but curious, her sketchpad untouched since Duke. Mom would have loved it. Yeah, she would have. He texted Lisa, taking A to stargaze. House might heat up. She'd decode it, get Ava safe, brace for trouble. They slipped out the back, dodging a cruiser prowling Elm Street, Daniel weaving through backroads to lose any tail. He dropped Ava with Lisa's paralegal pal. Tara Brooks, 40 miles out, a safe house of sorts, then doubled back, parking in Mrs. Carter's blind spot, binoculars trained on his own front yard. At 2 p.m., Holt and Dunn's cruiser crawled past. Pausing at Mrs. Carter's. She met them on her porch, arms crossed, voice sharp. You've got no business here. Holt jabbed a finger, snarling something Daniel couldn't hear, but Mrs. Carter didn't budge. They retreated to their car, staking out the Bennett's house like vultures circling carrion. At 4:30, Daniel dialed a burner, faking a brawl at O'Malley's, Holt's beat. Dispatch crackled through their radio, they peeled out, cursing. Daniel slipped inside, settling in the living room with a book, cameras rolling, front door, windows, garage. Every inch. 43 minutes later, tires screeched, they were back, no pretense now. Dunn pounded the door, fist like a hammer. Bennett. Open up. Daniel rose, calm as a predator. Cracking it open. Officers. Problem? We've got threats, your kid's mouth, Holt sneered, shoving past. Dunn circled, knocking a framed photo of Ava and Duke to the hardwood, glass splintering. Nice digs for a nutjob vet. PTSD screwing you up? I'm sound, Daniel said, retrieving the frame, brushing shards off Duke's frozen grin. You're the one sweating. Dunn shoved him. Chest to chest. Cut the crap. You tailed us, roughed up Holt in that lot. Prove it. Daniel stayed still, cameras catching Dunn's twitch, Holt's smirk. Holt leaned in, breath sour with coffee. She said you'd make us pay. Now you're stalking cops, bad call. She was grieving, Daniel shot back, voice steady. You shot her lifeline, a trained K9, not a threat. You're the danger here. Dunn slammed him against the wall, fist sinking into his ribs. Keep talking, hero. Holt egged him on, grinning. Show him, done. Another punch, Daniel wheezed, tasting blood but holding fast. Actions have consequences. Holt froze, eyes narrowing. You set this up. Leave, Daniel rasped, or it's assault on tape, unarmed civilian, your own words. Dunn paled. Stumbling back. You're bluffing. Test me. They bolted, cruiser screaming away. Daniel uploaded the footage, HD, their snarls damning, teach him how it works here. He sent it to Lisa, got cold. Later, Riley's tip led him to O'Malley's, Holt ranting over whiskey, Bennett's done. We'll bury him and that kid. Daniel recorded it, another nail ready. Next day, Captain Maria Torres met him in a Raleigh parking garage, 27 years on the force. Black, unyielding, her gray bun tight as her resolve. You're being framed, she said, handing over a file. Holt's ex-Delta, Staff Sergeant James Holt, Echo Team, 08. You filed the report that got him dishonorably discharged, civilian brutality in Kabul. This is revenge, Colonel. Pearson, his brother-in-law, runs cover, lieutenant with pull. They've hit other black vet families, dogs, kids, same MO. Daniel's blood iced, memories flashing, Holt's sneering face in a dusty outpost. A village elder's broken arm. Personal from day one. Bigger than that, Torres said. Pearson's tied to Victor Decker, ex-Blackwater, now a consultant with extremist ties. Neighborhood Purity League. It's systemic. Federal level rot, Daniel muttered, mind racing. I've got more, patterns, witnesses, Pearson's car on my tail. Torres's eyes gleamed. That's a bomb. We go FBI. That night, watching Ava sketch Luna's outline, her first art since Duke, Daniel vowed no system would rip her away. FBI agent Carla Ruiz opened Torres's package at 7 a.m. Daniel's tapes, Riley's affidavit, Mrs. Carter's video, Decker's shadow lurking in Pearson's car. By noon, feds and state troopers swarmed Pine Hollow PD, a whirlwind of warrants and cuffs. Holt, Dunn, Pearson, and 4 others, detectives, a desk sergeant, were hauled out, faces pale or defiant. News choppers buzzed overhead, anchors breathless, breaking, massive corruption bust in Pine Hollow, cops targeted minority vet families in a chilling conspiracy. Daniel sat with Ava on the couch. Her head on his shoulder, Luna sprawled at their feet, as the TV blared justice unfolding. Lisa burst in, grin fierce. Feds hit hard, conspiracy, civil rights violations. Evidence tampering, assault. DCFS scams toast, caseworkers Pearson's cousin, confessed to fabricating it. They're done, Danny. Good, Daniel said, squeezing Ava's hand, her sketchpad open to Luna's goofy grin. The trial was a bloodbath. Holt glared across the courtroom, eyes burning with hate, Daniel's old squad mate, unmasked. Dunn shrank, bravado gone. Tapes rolled, living room assault. O'Malley's boasts, school intimidation, each frame a hammer blow. Riley testified, voice cracking but steady, Duke didn't lunge. Holt said, show her who runs this town. Torres laid bare the Neighborhood Purity League, Decker's brainchild. Pearson's muscle, Holt's vendetta against the man who'd ended his career. 5 other families took the stand, Staff Sergeant Jackson's pitbull shot, Lieutenant Carter's son harassed, tears and fury echoing Ava's. Guilty verdicts crashed down, no bail, life sentences looming. 3 months later, on a crisp December morning, Daniel and Ava stood outside Pine Hollow Animal Rescue. Ava's hand shook in his. Her breath fogging in the chill. You sure, kiddo? He asked, gentle as ever. No rush. She nodded, resolve hardening her gaze. Dr. Pierce says it might help. Anne. Duke'd want me to smile again. Inside, a scruffy mutt, golden brown, 5 months old, bounced toward them, tail a blur. "This is Luna," the manager said. Ava knelt, letting Luna lick her hand, a faint smile breaking through, the first real one since that September day. "She's not Duke," Daniel said, crouching beside her, "but she needs us." "I know," Ava replied, something firm in her voice. "Maybe we need her too." They signed the papers, Luna tumbling into their truck. A new chapter barking to life. That night, Daniel sat on the porch swing, Ava sketching Luna's floppy ears beside him, the sky a tapestry of stars. "Mom'd be proud," he said, voice thick. "Yeah," Ava whispered, Luna snoring softly. "We're okay now, Dad." Mrs. Carter waved from her porch, hollering, "That pup's a keeper." Ava waved back, her laugh a fragile, precious sound. Justice wasn't the vengeance Daniel had first craved, it was this, Ava healing, Pine Hollow waking to its rot, a father keeping his word. The stars above bore witness, a soldier's war won not with bullets, but with love and a dog's quiet legacy. Lessons. Grief can fuel strength. Ava Bennett's world shatters when Duke's shot down, she's just a kid, already scarred by losing her mom. And now this. But through her pain, she finds a voice, "My dad'll make you pay." Lesson? Grief doesn't just break you, it can forge you into something fierce. Ever turned your hurt into hustle? Tell us how. Loyalty's a superpower. Duke didn't hesitate, he stepped up to shield Ava, even when it cost him everything. Then there's Daniel, dropping a covert op halfway across the globe to fight for his girl. Loyalty's the glue that holds this story together. Who's your Duke or Daniel, the one who'd take a bullet for you? Justice isn't always served on a platter. The system fails Ava, cops cleared. No charges, even with blood on the sidewalk. Daniel has to go rogue, turning his Delta skills on a corrupt town to get what's right. Sometimes, justice isn't handed out, you've gotta claw it back. Ever had to fight for what's fair? Spill it. The little guy can topple giants. Pine Hollow's cops strut like kings, untouchable with their badges and buddies in high places. But one girl's tears and a soldier's wrath bring down their whole rotten empire. David versus Goliath, y'all, it's real. What giant have you faced down in your life? Healing's the real victory. Daniel could have burned it all down, but he chooses a smarter war, one that ends with Ava sketching again. Luna snoring by her bed. Vengeance feels good, but healing's the win that lasts. How've you found peace after a storm? Let's get talking, patriots. Yo, fam, what hit you hardest from Ava and Daniel's fight? Maybe you've got your own story of standing up when the world kicked you down. Or a shout out to your ride or die who's always got your back. Drop it in the comments, I'm diving into every one. And hey, what do you reckon's next for Pine Hollow after this shakeup? Wild theories. Let's hear them. Smash that like button if this story lit a fire in you, hit subscribe for more epic tales of grit and heart, and share it with your squad. You're the pulse of this channel, let's keep the convo blazing. What's on your mind?